Alrighty you guys, so when it comes to the Workshop of Brilliant Light, of course I've done my initial video kind of looking into this, but I kind of wanted to go, well, I kind of wanted to do a video to talk furthermore in depth in terms of what means of access we have currently right now, because ultimately, you know, some people might want to skip out on the dark meta and whatnot, so realistically at that point you're really having to cater to the wind element, right? Through the hunter's perspective, I would say. Through the weapons perspective, you can... well, through the weapons perspective, you can also cater to wind, so that's completely fine. So, that is what we're going to be looking at in terms of setup-wise and what we need to kind of cater to make sure that we're prepared for the upcoming bosses. Not only that, rest in peace water element. I don't know what it is, but when it comes to these new sets of Workshop of Brilliant Light, so I can't remember where it was shown. Was it Kaisel? Where was it? Was it Baron? It was one of these fights, and I assume it's going to be the same going over. Well, I mean, no, that's Vulcan. Hold on a minute. Yeah, so like right there. So it's unfortunate, you know. I mean, they've kind of kept up the theme of making it so that bosses are strong. Well, won't take as much damage to the water element. Water element, FYI, is kind of like the best element in the game, and so in terms of getting, obviously, with the current trials where you can get like altogether 4.5k essence, of course. It caters to the wind typing, and water typing unfortunately is at a disadvantage, and it seems like they've catered to that going forward for this new Workshop of Brilliant Light. Unfortunate. I hate that they're doing that, so rest in peace to the water element, but that does kind of... I thought it did kind of put us in a bit of a pickle in terms of a specific usage out of a certain character, and then it's just like, wait, we've had another character that can also provide something very specific that was very, very needed, especially in the Vulcan fight late rounds, right? I'll get to that in just a second. So that's what we're working with, wind and dark. Let's just focus fire on that for right now. Okay, so let's take a look on what we're working with. So as it stands, obviously, when it comes to catering to the element, weapon-wise, clearly what I would suggest, and I think what majority of us will probably lean towards, is the Plum and the West Wind combination. Ultimately, with the wind element, it kind of low-key smashes through the Vulcan. Obviously, with hard Vulcan stages, I don't even cater to the water element anymore. I always do my wind setup for Sun Jin Woo. I do use the water characters for hunters, right? I mean, it's not too bad, of course, it does work out. But in terms of the win, and because it is carrying over, and technically with these two setups, it's in benefit to actually use these against the upcoming Workshop of Brilliant Light. Ultimately, as we all know, if you really want to cater to dark with Sun Jin Woo weapon, because realistically, outside of the West Wind, I really wouldn't cater to any other wind element, since the West Wind itself can just do ×2 burst damage, of course, and we know the damage this weapon possesses. But again, you can quite easily link up the two universal weapons together, being the two best combination, being the Plum Sword and the Moon Shadow, if you have access to that. Obviously, the newest weapons also at your disposal, and then last but not least, I mean, we can't forget about the Scythe. Yeah, I mean, it's there. It's a free weapon, so a lot of people, or near enough everyone should have access to this weapon if you want to go down that route. But yeah, that is the means of the weapons that are mostly going to be getting used in terms of getting the highest damage output and being able to beat these bosses, since this is the weaknesses that they're going to be weakest to. If I can get some dupes onto this bad boy, I would love to do a run with that, but for me personally, I think I'm going to do the West Wind and Plum. I think that is going to be just the safest route to take in terms of getting that disgusting crit damage. And again, SI West Wind weapon, you might have this maxed out compared to any other weapon, and so yeah, West Wind is still kicking ass and chewing bubblegum. You guys know the deal. Now, Ruins. Now this kind of is fairly interesting, because Ruins technically, I mean, okay, ultimately you're not going to get rid of the Arm Break Rune. This is always going to be the best Rune, and obviously it's going to be the Vacuum Wave, which a lot of people will be catering to, giving you the almighty break, and more importantly, giving you that increased damage of 10%, of course, mine's at heroic. So this is ultimately going to be universally loved and used, which I would highly recommend. And then outside of that, I mean, if you really want more breakage, you can go down that route. However, these new ruins, we can't forget about them. I'll admit, I don't know about you guys, but these new ruins have been doing wonders for DPS damage. You got the wind one that will give us the attack increase, so we can furthermore cater to getting more of our damage going. So that's something that we can kind of pile on. This is a combination which I do use, by the way, when it comes to the wind element, in order to bump up and get some more additional attacks going on, or increase my percentage wise, of course. But I will say the magnifying slashes does absolute wonders for damage output, especially again if you are using it in a sequence to get that increase of 160% for 3 seconds, stacking up for 2 times, and you also get that MP mana recovery of 140. Again, mine's a heroic, of course. So we've got some play around room with these new these new ruins that do a ton of damage. So ultimately, you know, the latest ruins that we have gotten are going to work hand on hand in terms of being a perfect pair for breakage and damage coverage. Obviously, we can't forget about the Death Dance. I think that's also going to be nice in terms of if we're catering to, furthermore, if you want more breakage, then again you can resort to utilizing this. You get some more damage out of it if you do have it in whatever state, because regardless you're going to be doing increased damage to the boss. And then, yeah, obviously with this ruin, it's just the consistency of it being at the ready. It's just always going to be there. Very, very solid, of course. So those are the ones that are really going to be catered to in terms of the ruins that I guess we'll just be focusing on to get the best outcome. Blessing for me, ultimately, I think what I'm personally going to be doing is probably just running this, right? Element advantage, cool down on my skills, because I've got this on legendary status. The only reason why I'm taking this is so that I get that extra 16%, of course, and then just breakage support, of course, you know. That's kind of what I'm going to be taking, but ultimately, yeah, you're just going to really be catering to offensiveness. So if you want to check that extreme, if you've got the newest blessing, I mean, this won't be too bad in terms of teaming this up with the Moon Shadow Dagger weapons, of course. That'd be absolutely beautiful, just an FYI. With the extreme evasion, shadow stepping, of course, it will pile on. It will pile on most definitely, but you can always resort to going down that route of always going with yeah, the blessing stones that will allow you to do more damage. Now again, in terms of hunters, what are we working with? So ultimately, originally this is what I was looking at. So dark is by far, like, again, this is right now where dark is at, right? Realistically, if you're going to be skipping the 2 girls, then you know, dark low-key is kind of out the equation, and ultimately it will be wind that needs to be catered to. Unless you do go for the dark element, then by all means that is going to be the way forward for yourself in terms of building your team. But ultimately this is what it's looking like now. I will say with the first boss and obviously with this boss, I am seeing some shield play going on, and obviously this was one of the most how should I say, blockade when it came to Vulcan, right? Because if you didn't have a shield remover, you were pretty much, you know, at a standstill, to the point where, you know, chances are you were going to get your ass handed to you, especially if time is up in the essence, or if Vulcan is just clipping you, of course. And the amount of shield he does, you know, apply to himself, it is pretty disgusting, and it can completely negate you from getting your W. And so with the shield removal, it got me thinking. I'm like, damn, am I really gonna have to resort to using Maylin and just kind of be at that disadvantage? Because realistically, outside of her, it's just gonna be your buffs that you're gonna be catering to, with the obviously healing that she provides. And then I realized, wait a minute, I've forgotten everything about, well, for me it's personally the hidden gem, because I don't know you guys, I completely forgot we already had a shield remover at the very beginning. It completely slipped my mind. So with the wind element, and I think this is actually beautiful, and this is why, okay, fair enough, I'm actually happy that it's wind and dark element that's being catered to, because I remember someone mentioning this, but I just completely forgot about it. But pretty much, so if we look at his, oh god, where am I going? It's on his skill. No, it's not. It's on his core attack. Yes, here it is, basic skill. So he scales off defense, does wind element damage. The skill can be used up to 3 times. When the final hit lands, it knocks the enemy target. When this skill hits, it removes the target's shield. We also got a stun, I'm pretty sure. I believe it's on, okay, no, not the support skill. Where's the stun? Oh no, please don't tell me. Oh damn it, I think the stun is on his support. Ah, Ripperoni. Okay, so unfortunately the hunters can't gain more from him. I feel like they should have made it so that his stun is also available on his second skill. They should have updated that rather than it just forever being on his support skill. That's unfortunate. But either way, This is also going to be very effective for Sun Jin Woo, because again, on Sun Jin Woo, if we want to utilize his shield removal, we can on the support skill, and we get that stun too. So like, as a support skill for Sun Jin Woo, this is actually a pretty solid character to have, of course. So if that's something that we need, it's fair to say that we got him. And I feel like, you know, well, then again, he's been in the game since the very beginning, so a lot of people can utilize running this man. Now, ultimately, the man doesn't have any type of breakage, so it does... I mean, realistically, what would you have to do? Take her out? That would be fairly interesting, because then you would have to resort to using Amamiya in a cautious way, so that way you don't, you know, spam through her MP, of course. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to throw that in there, you know, in terms of where things are leading to, and if Dark is not going to be catered to, if that's not an element that you're going to be catering to at the very beginning when the Baron content releases, and that you're more focused on that at a late stage, for them to allow us to also now gain advantage play through the wind element, Sun Jin Woo wise, weapon wise, we've got the west wind, we're going to be rocking and rolling. Hunter wise, of course, clearly this is going to be the optimal team to use from, and obviously we know how successful this team is in terms of damage and breakage coverage and supportive, etc., of course. But good to know that we've got ourselves a bit of a shield remover that is also going to be helping us out if it comes down to there being, again, such as brick wall applied. Again, it was annoying for the Vulcan stage, caught a lot of people off guard at the very beginning, of course. And so with Mei Lin coming along, she was a very crucial character. I mean, ultimately, if you were doing a ridiculous amount of damage, you can quite easily bypass the whole shield phase, technically speaking. But obviously, most people can't do that. That's kind of understandable, right? And so having a shield remover was very, very crucial. And so, thank God we got someone catering to the element that's going to be against the Workshop of Midnight. So, yeah, just kind of wanted to go over that, of course.